I hope that you can understand what you've, sorry, I'm getting emotional now,
You're getting
what
me
you've
too.
done for me. You've saved me. I hope you know that. And I want you to know that. From a life of misery and pain and frustration and anger and depression, that's how much this means to me.
Hey, everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the Becoming Porn Free podcast. Today, we're interviewing a client of mine named Justin Higby. This interview was about 4 months ago, but I'm happy to say that fast forward 4 months, he is still free from pornography. Has Justin had some ups and downs along the way? He sure has. Overcoming pornography is not just about stopping a behavior. It's stopping that behavior while also making improvements in all the areas of life that were neglected or where the fires are burning. Justin has now been able to face those challenges one step at a time. It's not always easy, but he is fighting the good fight still to this day. He's clean from pornography and he is progressing and moving forward. I'm excited to share this interview with you today. I hope it can be a huge help to you. And as always, if you like this content, make sure to follow or subscribe, and let's jump right in.
Hey, everybody, Hunter Otis here, and I have Justin with me here on the call today. And well, Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Really, really good. And I'm just excited to go through this with you and to be able to show, those that are watching, just kind of to show them your experience and to help them kind of see what's possible in such a short period of time. Like, I think what's been really amazing to see with you and for those that are watching, what we'll kind of go through is Justin's only been working with me for just over a month. And he's now perfect. No, I'm just kidding.
Far from it.
Life is a journey, not a destination. There's always more things to work on. But I'm excited to share with you just the full picture of kind of where Justin was just over a month ago compared to now. Like, energetically, he's like a new person. And he's laying through his own personal work. He's laying a strong foundation for what comes next, which is, the next stages of his life, whatever that may be, however he wants to create it. Right. So anyway, I'm excited to dig in with you. And I just appreciate you being willing to do this and share your story.
You're welcome.
Cool. So why don't you kind of just share what really caused you to reach out initially? I know that's not always the fun part of the story, but what caused you to reach out and describe life before joining the program?
Well, real quickly, life before joining the program was pretty absolutely miserable. I was withdrawn from my wife, withdrawn from my son. I had lots of anxiety. I was dealing with depression, so much so that I was taking medications and trying to find better ways to deal with depression. Our marriage was pretty much on the rocks. We weren't communicating. We were pretty miserable together. We were both pretty checked out of the marriage. Both pretty, I mean, checked out's about as good a word as I can use because we were both literally checked out. It came to a point where I had an experience with Joshua, and Wendy felt like I didn't take care of business the way I should have, and got angry at me. And we were sitting downstairs, and she flat out asked me if I had been watching pornography.
Mm-hmm.
And what went through my mind was two things. I can lie to her, and things will just continue to keep going the way they are, which was pretty miserable. Or I could tell her the truth and maybe find a way to fix what was wrong with our marriage, fix what was wrong with my life, put the pieces back together, in essence.
Yep.
So that was kind of where we were at. About that happened almost 8 weeks ago today that she asked me that.
Yeah.
It crushed her, it crushed me. But I was grateful that I was honest with her, that I didn't lie to her, because that was really the first time she'd ever asked me. But I've come to realize over time that I've lied to her for a good part of our marriage.
Yep.
By omission.
Right.
And that was part of what hurt her so badly, was that lying by an omission.
Yep.
Even though she'd never actually come out and asked me, have you been doing this? So yeah, that's kind of where we were at. After that happened, she ended up in the hospital with some kidney stones, and some things happened for a couple of weeks where we weren't really able to deal with things.
Yep.
I was trying to take care of her. She was trying to take care of herself.
Yep.
She didn't really want me around her much.
Right.
It was kind of an awkward back and forth. Well, what do I do? How do I do this? Does she even want me here with her? Does she not? It was really awkward there for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Once that passed, she started working on finding some resources, and she found a Bloom counselor that was really good. And to be honest with you, we're not exactly sure how we even stumbled onto you guys when we talked about it this morning.
Yeah.
We're like, just all of a sudden, here's this name for your wife, Nicole, and
Yep.
she was a CSAT, and Wendy wanted me to see a CSAT, and so we called you guys and set up our initial consultation.
Right.
And during that initial consultation, we we probably had more of a session than a consultation.
Sure. It's kind of what they turned into, and that's okay.
Yeah, I said some things. She said some things. Some of it was pretty raw. Some of it was pretty rough.
Yes.
To hear. Some of it was, I'm sure you guys were probably like, whoa, these guys are off their rockers.
These guys are nuts. No, not at all. In fact, it's hard to surprise us at this point. Like it's all pretty normal.
Now that I know you better,
yeah,
I understand that. Yeah, what you were probably used to seeing something fairly similar to this. But
yeah.
For us, it was pretty rough experience.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Like I could tell. Well, first off, like huge props to you guys for choosing that uncomfortable vulnerability on that initial call, because like our initial conditions with anything really sets the tone for how we move forward. And you guys choosing to go all in on that consultation and share things that were hard, not easy, not fun, etc. I mean, it really set you up for some powerful progress or momentum initially. I know it wasn't easy. Like I remember vividly. It wasn't that long ago. It was just over a month ago. So it's still pretty fresh, you know?
Well, it was kind of funny because right after we talked, I had visited again with my brother, who was also dealing with some issues.
Yeah.
And I shared with him that I felt like it was kind of partly Wendy's fault. And so we'd just come home from church. I wasn't feeling all that great. I was kind of ticked off and angry still. And I turned to Wendy and I says, well, I think you need to accept some responsibility in this, because I didn't feel like she was accepting any responsibility in it. Well, guys, take it from me. Don't do that. It was a really stupid move.
Yeah.
I compare it to like standing in the middle of the railroad tracks with a freight train coming straight down the tracks at full speed. I
Yep.
got plowed.
Yeah. Well, and it's a
And
reason for that is it's really like at the beginning of this, we're really consumed a lot by just delusional thinking, right?
yes,
Blame
very.
shifting, um, excuses, justifications. When we can shift the blame of our behaviors onto something external, it takes the pressure off of ourselves, and that's why we do it. You
Yep.
know, and
Yep.
I get it. It's not fun to self confront and look
No.
at all the things that we're doing that are sabotaging our life. Um,
Yeah, you're
and
right.
unfortunately, in a relationship, and this happens both ways, but especially when we're struggling with this habit and it's underground for so long, we do a lot of blame shifting onto our wives, and so it's kind of like in that moment, it was probably years and years of this stuff kind of all coming to a head
Yeah.
in one moment in time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So then we
And
have this conversation. You decide to jump in, um, which was just awesome. I mean, again, you guys just jumped in with both feet, and a huge props to you for choosing to be honest with her in that moment when she asked you. Because I've never had a partner say that you looking at porn was worse than the lies. I've never had a partner say that. The lies are always worse. And so, yeah, there were lies of omission, but the fact that you chose in that moment when she asked you directly to be honest is a huge thing. And I think a big reason as to why you guys right now are able to progress the way that you are. Now, for anyone watching to know my story, like I was the guy, I was like the hide it until she finds it guy, right? Like she'd ask me straight to my face time and time again, and I denied it. And so we've got kind of two sides of the spectrum here on this call right now. There's still hope, I guess is what I mean to say. If that's somebody watching and
if
that's what
that's
they've
you.
done, there's hope. It's not easy, it's not fun, but there is so much hope. So for you then, just describe your experience then. So jumping in, getting started, I remember it was like a little tough for you at first, but just what has your experience been like? If you can just describe it to us, and I have a couple more questions.
Well, at first I was a little hesitant. One, because I was opening up and
Yep.
telling people I had a problem. So that kind of, this is a problem of shame and hiding and guilt and lying, and they're all bad things. And so I really struggled with the idea of opening up to somebody about it. I'd tried for years and years and years to quit on my own, and I finally came to the realization that I needed help. That
Yeah.
this is not something that you can do on your own. That you need outside influences. You need to be open with your situation, open and honest about your situation with those that you're working with, because those lies of omission or those outright blatant lies are only hurting what's inside here.
Yep.
Inside your heart. It's what's rotting you from the inside out. And so I was kind of like, well, I'll just do this to appease her, and we'll make it. It'll be okay. We'll get better, and we'll move forward. Well, as I started doing you saw me when I was at my low,
Yep.
or definitely at one of my lows in life.
Yep.
And I was pretty, I was pretty reserved and pretty, I'd withdrawn into myself pretty far. And you told me that you wanted me to start with pillar 3, which was the create a new life pillar.
Right.
And I wasn't even sure I could do that because I was so withdrawn and so felt so lost. And I started into it, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be hard because I just don't have it in me to do it. I don't want to do it. I really, really struggled with it. I listened to you talk, but I didn't do the homework. I didn't want to get involved.
Right.
And I kind of had a little bit of a change of attitude, and I thought, well, I'll sit down and do it because it's there. I'm not I I can do this homework. And so I sat down, and the first question I think is, what do you think men are? Or something to that degree. And so I wrote, maybe a sentence or two. I wrote the question down. I wrote a sentence or two. Oh, I think men are this and men are that. And then the next question was, what do you think women are? And I wrote a sentence or two. Women are this, women are that. But as I kept going through that homework assignment and several of the others later on, I started to realize, as I started to be honest with myself, and that was very hard to do.
Yeah.
Was be honest with myself, to really open up and admit to yourself that you made bad choices. You have dictated your life based off of bad information, bad choices, bad influences. Some were good. I'm not going to say everything I did in my life was terrible and bad,
Right.
but I had some really not good beliefs about myself, about sexuality, about even marriage to some degree.
Yep.
I was not in a good place. And as I did that, I started to realize more and more that I really wasn't in a good place.
Right.
And it allowed me, like I said, to open up and to really be honest with myself. And as I did the assignment and I got deeper and deeper into the assignments, I found that instead of writing one or two sentences about something, I was writing a page or two about it.
Mm.
And when it was all said and done, I had 24 pages, 12 pages front and back, written for one assignment.
Yep.
This is just one assignment. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it took me, I'll bet, a week to sit down and actually just bust those out, maybe an hour a day or so in the morning.
Right.
And it was life-changing for me to see what I had been basing my life and my life decisions on, and how wrong I had been for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I was wrong.
Right.
And that was eye-opening for me, an awakening for me. It changed my heart.
Mm.
It made me want to change who I was and let that old me die.
Yeah.
You told me one thing, let that old you die, but don't forget the guilt, because the guilt will keep you straight. And that's stuck with me. That really has, because you're right. I don't want to forget that person because I never want to fall back into that trap of who that person was.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
That
that point of
person.
awareness, right? Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't let the guilt be this debilitating like thing that
Correct.
transforms to shame and shuts us down. But we remember, we don't forget. We also don't let it have power over us. But it's this reminder of like, that's not who I am. That's
Correct.
not who I am. In fact, like this is so important. What you chose to do here is, because there are plenty of people that write a paragraph for each question, and sometimes that works great for people, right? But what you're saying, if I got this right, is you really surrendered fully to the experience, and you let truth emerge,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
unadulterated, unfiltered truth. You let yourself observe who you were and how you were behaving. And really, it's that like adaptive self. Like you're not really fully who you actually are. You're just living in response and reaction to all this external stuff. It's not really you,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So you chose to observe all of that, which is really painful because then at the end of that, we're like, well, who the hell am I? I,
You
I
know
don't
what?
know.
I asked myself that question.
Yeah. And I have
I
too.
really did.
Yep.
I was like, whoa, I'm a bloody mess.
Yes.
And I like to use the word bloody, so that's kind of my
But it's,
figurative word.
I mean,
But
it's a good way of putting it. Like we're wounded, we're not
yeah,
broken. I don't like to say we're broken. There's actually nothing fundamentally wrong with us. It's just life sometimes bloodies us.
yeah,
And we go through life unconsciously. We're not aware as a child, as young adults of what's really going on around us. And that unconsciousness just can chase us if we don't have a moment of change, of conscious choice of saying, whoa, what's actually going on here? It's that self confrontation, self reflection. And you went all in on that. And then again, what I'm hearing is that because you were allowed yourself to fully do that, you were then able to allow yourself to fully craft who you want to become.
yes,
And
and
that
that
then shifted. So instead of all this focus is on, I suck, I'm worthless, like you've exposed all those negative beliefs about yourself. And then you were able to say, that's not who I am anymore. This is who I want to be and become. And now your focus has shifted to this.
correct.
What has that done emotionally to you to have that shift?
Well, I'm starting to wonder if I need to take depression medication anymore.
Yeah.
I haven't felt. I mean, yeah, okay. My wife every once in a while will be like, "Oh, you were late for dinner, and I'm mad at you now," or I don't feel like being touchy lovey today, and so I get frustrated.
Yeah.
And when I say touchy lovey, I mean at best we've given each other a hug,
Yeah.
in the last month, 2 months.
Right.
um, so it's, but even with all of that going on, I just have not had the depression, the anxiety, the fear, um, I've been freed,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term. I mean, literally freed from the tons of weight that I was carrying on my shoulders and the brick walls that I'd built around myself. The tools that you've given me have given me a sledgehammer, and now I can start breaking those walls down. I even told Nicole this morning in our session, I said, um, hopefully I can find a jackhammer somewhere in there. you know, um,
Yeah.
it's been freeing to break those walls down and to understand what really led to my pornography addiction,
Yeah.
because it was a lot of external outside things that led to it.
Yep.
um, and
Yep.
without realizing that, without realizing that. You think it's all internal, it's all just me. I can never break out of this. It's never going to change. Nothing will ever get better. My wife's always going to hate me.
Right.
Whatever, blah 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 blah. And um and it's not. Everything can change.
Yeah.
You can change. And when you change and your wife sees that change and your coaches see your change and your bishops and or ecclesiastical leaders see your change, um, tell a friend. I mean, seriously, find a trusted friend and tell your friend so that you have, even if they can't relate to you, just the fact that they know gives
Yeah.
you some accountability to someone. And that accountability, I think, really helps to um, to deal with processing the urges, to
Hmm.
being honest with yourself. It really deal or helps to create some peace in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, lift those burdens off of you because now it's out in the open. People know about it.
Yeah.
I
You're
mean,
not alone
I'm
anymore.
not saying
Right.
you need to go out and share it with the whole world. This
Right.
this is this is kind of a unique situation. I did feel like that I could share this because it's been such a transformative thing for me, and I want it to be a transformative thing for you guys.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the biggest reason that I'm willing to share this is because I know you guys can do it. This is powerful stuff what Hunter's put together. Um, I just can't even begin to explain how thankful I am to Hunter for the work that he's put into putting this together.
Mm.
Because without it, I was lost. And it was, I literally, I mean, I had thoughts of suicide. Um, I even drove myself up in the mountains, thinking that I might do it. I mean, it was bad.
Mm.
And this literally has transformed my life. The the program is transformative and it will work if you put in the time and the effort and you're willing to be honest with yourself, with
Mm.
Hunter, with your counselors or Nicole or whoever your counselor might be, with with your ecclesiastical leaders, with your friend or friends, if you have multiple friends that you feel you can share it with.
Yeah.
Um, it's so life changing and so freeing. It really is. And that's one of the reasons why I want to tell this story because I, I just feel free.
Well, and I'd love to, like, again, we're getting back to this theme of honesty, you know, like this, and I mean, honesty being even so much more than, if you're married, tell the truth to your wife. That's
Right,
obviously extremely important. It's your primary, most intimate relationship, right?
right,
With another human being. And it impacts your children. It impacts everything. But what I'm hearing you say is one, honesty with yourself, which
yes,
is huge because I heard someone say, like, our sexuality is not the devil's playground. Self-deception is.
yeah,
And so what we've done is we've demonized our sexuality and we put so much weight on this habit of viewing porn that we will continue to self-deceive because we view the behavior itself as being worse than the dishonesty when it's not true. It's not true. And so first, you're being honest with yourself, the reality of what this is truly doing to you in your life. And it is not helpful. It's not serving you. It's not helping you get the actual yield that you want out of life. And then that honesty then extends to your spouse, or maybe it started with your spouse asking you the question, which caused you to self-confront, or vice versa, whatever order that is, it's fine. But then what you're saying is that the more you're honest with yourself, the greater desire you have for connection with others. You're coming out of isolation, first with yourself, then with your partner, then with a church leader, a trusted friend. And now you're surrounding yourself with life.
Yes.
With hope, with power, with people that care about you, that are willing to support you. And, some people don't have that support system in their life, or even anyone to turn to, but that's why we have a community of men that you can surround yourself with. There are people that can connect with you, and it is life-changing. To be able to speak the truth, it changes you. It completely changes you. So I just thank you for sharing that. It's super, super powerful. And another thing to point out here is that, you haven't even fully completed everything in the program yet. Like, you're a fraction
not even
way
close.
through. Right. But what's cool here is, one, you listened to my instruction, my guidance, right? Because that Create a New Life portion is at the end of the program. There's no specific order that you have to go. Basically, through our coaching and me saying, whoa, yeah, this is where Justin's at. This guy needs some vision in his life. He needs to see a new picture, right? Because the old one is keeping you stuck over here. And you chose to heed that instruction. I said, you need to do this. You need to do it right now. Like, the day, the sun should not go down without you at least watching through all those videos. Yep. Because they're short, they're short and punchy. So it's like, at least watch the videos. Let's get the ball rolling. And you did. And that willingness to surrender to that process. Look, now you're plugged in to that power source, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what this is about. Like, becoming porn free, it's not a behavioral adjustment. It's an internal adjustment. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, it's not a lifestyle change. It's an internal belief change that manifests itself as a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're plugged into the right power source, the right vision to keep you getting back up when you make mistakes. And now, when you do get into the behavioral stuff, because we obviously have that, like you mentioned, processing urges and dealing with your emotions. And I mean, there's some complexity here, right? Like, we're humans. It's not easy. But now, as you go through and start practicing those skills, you have the right driver behind it. Like, the goal is not to just stop a porn habit. That's definitely part of the goal, right? Obviously.
Right.
But it's the goal is to become a new person, to become who you're truly capable of being. And in doing so, you can step into fulfillment, happiness, and joy, and honesty. Like, honesty, truth sets you free, right? So if that's your new identity, and you're feeding that and replaying that new you over and over again, then no matter what comes up, like, you can be honest and confront and overcome any challenge, because you're willing to look at it, see it for what it is, and then do something about it.
Any challenge.
Challenge.
That's what's so cool about it, is because I've noticed that, do I still get frustrated? Do I still get angry when something's not working right? Yeah. But I deal with it in a different manner. I mean, I'm still not perfect, and probably never will be. I know, right? But it's really been a transformative thing for me, and like we had talked about earlier, pornography is just a symptom of a lot deeper issues. Mm-hmm. And so that honesty with yourself and your spouse and those around you really opens up that ability to see what those other issues are. Mm-hmm. And those are the issues that need to be fixed and changed.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that I love about your program so much, is that it isn't just about stopping viewing pornography. It's about real change in here, in the heart, in the mind, in the body. It's not just something, oh, I'm not going to watch porn anymore.
Right.
It's I want to be a whole new person. That person that was alive before is dead. I've moved on from who that person was, and I'm going to be a new me. And that doesn't mean that there's not going to be ups and downs and peaks and valleys and things like that. But I have tools now to fight those valleys.
Yes.
And I now have the ability to stand up and pat myself on the back when I get to a peak.
Yep.
And I could never do that before. Never once.
Right. Yeah, because the reason for that is your internal narrative.
Yep.
If you believe you're not worthy of love, worthy of success, worthy of happiness, if you believe that you're just going to continue to be a screw up, your wife's never going to love you or be satisfied by anything that you do, that you believe you're not actually allowed to experience pleasure and joy, success, well, then you're not going to let yourself receive it in your life. Right. And then what your brain does when you tell yourself these things, your brain filters out all the positive messages and only focuses on the negative ones. And that's what and it just feeds that negative feedback loop. And I hope, like, what I want people to know and understand, I said at the beginning of the call, like, I don't like saying that we're broken, because there's actually fundamentally nothing wrong with you, Justin.
Right.
All it is we've fed in these messages that aren't helpful. Right. And by thinking those things over and over and over and over and over again, you now view them as true fact. Not anymore, right? We've unplugged you from that. That's what happens. And then
absolutely.
Our brains, we cannot process everything going on in our world. We would get completely overloaded. And so our people call it the reticular activating system. Basically what it does is it blocks out like 99% of everything that we see. Right? So that we can stay sane. Well, what's that 1% that we're going to observe? That is dictated by our internal beliefs about ourselves. So if your beliefs are really poor, right, the 1% in the world that you're going to see is going to reinforce those beliefs, and it's going to block out the 99%. And so what we have to do is uninstall through awareness and self-confrontation, uninstall those old beliefs, which is what you did.
Yep.
And then install, like consciously create and install through a skill set the new ones that you want to believe. And that's more than just writing down, some goals on a page. Like you need a process to follow to wire it in. And then what will happen is that 1% that you let in is going to shift towards those things that confirm the new truth about you. It's all been there this whole time, but your brain hasn't been letting it in.
Yep.
And so that's just really important, I think, for people to understand. Like, this isn't just some like magic thing. Like, we're working with the brain, we're working with the body. Like, we're not just snapping fingers. There's no magic spell or pill that's making, you automatically not want porn in your life. But as you start letting that true information in to confirm your new beliefs, you will become a new person and step out of someone who needs an addiction to cope with a painful reality that you actually didn't choose and want to begin with. Right.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean you won't regress. Doesn't mean you'll never get triggered and you'll never get upset. Your spouse could say something or, smash your thumb with a hammer, and it's pretty easy to regress into unhelpful thoughts. You know what I mean? Uh, so it's one of those things though, that through awareness, you're like, whoa, I'm kind of going backwards here. Let's refocus on who I actually am and who I'm becoming. And you get back up when you make mistakes. So, you go 60 days without looking at porn and you give in one time. Does that mean you're a failure? No,
Nope.
it means, hey, let's learn from it. Let's use it as a stepping stone.
That's one of the things that I actually loved about your program was that when you did I believe it was in the shame-free paradigm or one of those. I can't remember which one it was exactly now, but
Mhm.
or even in the commitment one, that if you did fall and view again, then you have a homework assignment to analyze
Right.
what happened that led you to that fall.
Yep.
And I think you could use that for anything. If I get angry, I
Yep.
could use that same homework assignment to go back and say, hey, why did I get angry? What
Yes.
and how could I have handled that situation differently? I mean, it applies to every aspect of your life.
Yes.
And it's so powerful. It's powerful stuff. It's good stuff.
You get your power back.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you're an
You get a
agent that
lot
can
of power
act.
back.
Yes.
I mean, you think you have power before, but you don't even understand the amount of power that you can have
Yes.
um, by doing these things, by again honesty and true soul searching. And I mean, I justified and made up and believed certain things that I was told when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, and I've let those things dictate my whole life.
Yeah.
And going back and looking at those, I'm like, what was I thinking?
Right. Well,
But
you weren't. You were just
I'd
living.
never taken the time to dig down into the roots,
Yep.
to prune the tree branches and dig down into those roots and cut out all the dead roots and get rid of all that garbage that's down there around my trunk of my tree. If you want to compare it to a tree,
Right.
I'm the trunk and I have roots, and those are my thoughts and beliefs. The branches are my thoughts and actions and feelings.
Right.
And if you really dig down into those roots and dig about that tree and prune out the bad branches, prune out the bad things, your tree will be healthy again. You will
Yes.
be healthy again.
But I
And you can
love how
produce good fruit.
we're not talking about filters and what apps to have on your phone to block XYZ and
You know what? My wife hasn't even put a filter on my phone
yeah.
or an app to block anything.
Yeah.
She's left that completely up to me. She wants to see what my spirit, what my
Yeah.
heart is telling me to do.
Yeah.
And if pornography is more important to me than my own personal happiness and her personal happiness and our marriage and our family, then she wants to know that.
Yep.
And I found that really powerful to me too, because it made me choose. I can still go downstairs and look at porn whenever I want.
Yep.
It's right there in front of me. It's like a big fat sucker sitting right there in front of my face.
Yep.
But she wants to know, am I going to choose her and my family and myself over that.
Right. Well, what happens is when we go towards like the behavioral focus, what happens is you're taking that old you that we were just talking about that hasn't changed, that still thinks crappy thoughts about yourself, that thinks you're worthless, that thinks you're not, you have no choice, no power, whatever. And then you're forcing yourself into an environment where you're still the same person that believes you need this thing to deal with reality. And then you're just restricting it.
Mm-hmm.
And all
and
it
there's
does is
always ways around the restrictions.
there's always ways. And all it does is it makes you want it more.
Yep.
It just makes you want it more. And then you actually trust yourself less because you don't believe without a filter that you'd be able to abstain from the behavior.
Right.
And which is why, like, getting back to really the theme of our whole conversation here is it has to be an internal change. Now, we need the skills to be able to deal with the urges, the changes that have happened in the brain, the science. We address all of that. But if your foundation is a broken one, you're going to keep coming back to the behavior time and time again because we're actually not resolving the driving forces behind your habit to begin with. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, this has been really powerful, and just working with you has been a pleasure. And
same here.
I'm not just saying that because we're on the record right now. It's been
and me neither.
Yeah.
You've been I've probably had 3 saviors in my life. I have Jesus Christ, I have my wife, Wendy, and you. And I hope that you can understand what you've sorry, I'm getting emotional now.
You're getting
what
me
you've
too.
done for me. What you've done for my wife, what you've done for our family. Sorry. But it has been transformative. And you've saved me. I hope you know that. And I want you to know that. You saved me from a life of misery and pain and frustration and anger and depression. You've saved me. That's how much this means to me. My Savior has saved me too. And I'm grateful for his atoning sacrifice and his forgiveness. And I'm grateful for my wife's forgiveness, even though I don't think I've fully received it yet. Her willingness to try. I'm grateful for so much that I wasn't grateful for before. I mean, I could sit here for an hour and tell you all the things I'm grateful for now that I wouldn't have even thought about before.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done. That's what I've been able to do for myself. And
Yes.
It really is you. You can do it. You can do it for yourself. You've given me the tools to be able to do that.
Right.
And that's where you saved me.
Is there anything that, like, say, if someone's watching this and they're fearful, they're apprehensive, they maybe don't trust themselves, or are just in like a really tough spot in their relationship, like, reflecting back on how things were for you, like what advice, maybe we can just end with this, is just what advice would you give to somebody that's like on the fence or just doesn't know if they should jump in?
Wow. What advice would I give you? First of all, I would tell you to quit lying to yourself. I'd tell you to be honest with yourself. Be honest with your wife or your significant other, your partner, whoever it is. Doesn't matter who it is. Be honest with them. That forgiveness process will go so much better for you if you're the one that tells them instead of the discovery, them finding out. It's so interesting because my wife, in her Bloom coaching, they call it Discovery Day. They call it D-Day, Discovery Day.
Yep.
Well, Wendy, when she heard that term D-Day, she was like, Disclosure Day. That's what she thought it meant.
Mm-hmm.
Disclosure Day. There's a big difference between disclosure and discovery.
Yes.
And I really feel like if you have any desire to save your marriage, to save yourself, that you have to be honest with yourself and your spouse. That is key above all. And it will hurt. It will be the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. I'm sure of it. Is opening up to your spouse like that, because it's going to hurt them. And it'll be a process to get through, but I'm telling you right now that this process is worth it. It's worth your time. It's worth your effort.
Mm-hmm.
That without this, I was doomed to divorce. I was doomed to living a life of depression and failure. I was doomed. I had so secluded myself. I was locked up in the basement basically for a long time. And this is freeing. It is worth your time and effort. It is worth even the money. Honestly, it really, really is. The tools that Hunter has given me and the reiteration of those tools twice a week on our calls is so awesome. I mean, it's just awesome. I haven't missed a call since I've been with you.
Yep.
And I look forward to those, even when I am depressed and down or feeling bad about myself for whatever reason.
Right.
I still look forward to those calls because I know you're going to lift me up and you're going to support me and you're going to strengthen me. And so if you're hesitant about this at all, I would tell you, don't be. Don't put this off for another minute, because your life can be better and it will be better. I promise you that. It won't be perfect. Nothing's perfect in this world.
You're not perfect?
I know, right? I wish.
Dang it.
Some days. But in all honesty, it's working much closer to perfection than I ever have been in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone to different coaching rallies and different,
right.
Seeing different psychologists and stuff. And this has just been transformative. It's been everything and more than I ever could have dreamed it would have been.
I like to say that perfection is actually simply when we know we're on the path towards who we are becoming.
Yeah.
To me, that's a perfect life.
And that's why I call you a savior, because in reality, I was not on that path. I was probably about as far off of it as I could get without really jumping off the cliff, honestly. And I see the light. I see a light. I see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I understand that it's not a train coming at me anymore. It's actually the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Now the journey will still take time.
Right.
Like
but you'll come out of that tunnel, you come out of the tunnel and now you see a beautiful scenery of opportunity, rather than this constrictive torment, of fear.
Right.
Wondering what's coming at you. Yeah.
And that restrictive torment won't be fun to go through. I'm telling you right now, it hasn't been fun for me to go through.
Yeah.
But it's worth it to not see the train coming, speeding as fast as it can towards you. Actually see the end of the tunnel and to be able to realize that there is more to life and that there is a better life, and it's out there and it's there for you to take, and you can take it if only you do something about it.
Yeah. Justin, thank you so much for your time, and thank you just for showing up for yourself. You can't do this transformation for someone.
Nope.
And so this call is just it's a reminder even for me of why I'm doing this, and it's what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's that purpose, and knowing that you have this potential, and now to be able to partner with you is really what it is. Being able to partner with you in helping you create your ideal life is just such a blessing in return to me. So just thank you so much. And thanks for doing the work.
You're welcome. And thank you for giving me the work to do.
No problem. I'll give you some more.
How many students can say that about their teachers?
Well, we got more to do, but that's what's exciting about it is now you're in a place to do it. And, for anyone watching this, if you're interested, join our free community. It's school with a K, SKOOL.com/BPF, school.com/BPF. I'm sure there's probably a link somewhere on this page you're watching this video, but check it out. It's free to join. You don't have to jump in and spend the money initially if that's not what you want to do, but just come in, take a look, and we can help you out right now. You don't need to wait. So, Justin, thank you again. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, man.
See you on Monday, actually.
See you on Monday.
Have a good weekend.
Yep, you too.
Bye.
Bye.